أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة. حي على الصلاة. حي على الفلاح. حي على الفلاح. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
الحمد لله الحمد لله الحمد لله رب العالمين. استغفر الله استغفر الله استغفر الله الذي لا اله الا هو الحي القيوم اتوب اليه. اسال التوبه والمغفره والزلفه انه هو التواب الرحيم. واعف عنا يا كريم واعف عنا يا كريم واعف عنا يا كريم. واغفر لنا بفضلك يا رحمن يا رحيم يا ملك يا قدوس يا حافظ يا الله. الأول يا الله الآخر يا الله الظاهر يا الله الباطن يا الله خيره وشره من الله تعالى. فأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. الصلاة والسلام عليك يا رسول الله. الصلاة والسلام عليك يا حبيب الله. الصلاة والسلام عليك يا سيد الأولين والآخرين. اشفع لنا يا شفيع المسلمين برحمتك أرحم الراحمين. قال الله تعالى في كتاب العزيز: أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن قالت ربي أنى يكون لي ولد ولم يمسسني بشرا. صدق الله العظيم. And Maryam alayhi salam said, my Lord, how can I have a son when no man has touched me? And Gabriel said, even so, Allah Ta'ala creates what He pleases. When He decrees a matter, He only says to it, be, and it is. Sadaqallahu al-Azim. Few days ago, in this country and all around the world, Christians have celebrated the birth of Hazrat Isa alayhi salam. Hazrat Isa alayhi salam is also our prophet, because we believe in all the prophets from Hazrat Adam alayhi salam, the first one, and Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, the last and the seal of prophethood. Who was Hazrat Isa alayhi salam? From the little we know, he was pure spirit. He was totally unworldly. He didn't have a home, he didn't have a wife, he didn't have children, he didn't have a job. He hardly had relationship with people, including his mother, who he addressed as women. He was totally divorced of the world and the worldly. That is why it is very, very difficult, in fact impossible, to emulate, to imitate Hazrat Isa alayhi salam. And those who try to imitate certain parts of his behavior, such as celibacy in the Christian church, they fall into trouble. It is said in a story about him that all his possessions in this world was a comb with which he combed his blessed beard, and an iron cup who used to drink water with, and a needle to sew when his clothes got torn and got old. And one day he saw a man drinking water from a fountain using his hand as a cup. He threw his cup away. And one day he saw a man combing his beard with his fingers. He threw his comb away. And all was left to him of this world as possession was this sewing needle. And when Allah Ta'ala took him to himself, because of the weight of this one sewing needle, he couldn't go any further than the second heaven, in which he is there. And towards the end of the world, he will come back, inshallah, to the world, and Mahdi will fight against Dajjal, and he will live a normal life of a human being, and he will be buried, we believe, next to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam in Medina al-Munawwara. Hazrat Isa alayhi salam and his blessed mother Hazrat Maryam alayhi salam are extremely important in our culture and in our religion. Those of you who read the Quran, you will find especially the praise of Hazrat Maryam alayhi salam in many ayats and also in Surah Maryam. Now, one interesting fact is that there has been certain differences of understanding things between the Christians and the Muslims. The principle of it being the belief amongst some of the Christians that Hazrat Isa alayhi salam, they think of him, astaghfirullah, as the son of Allah Ta'ala. My Shaykh was a very permissive person. He didn't blame neither the worshippers of the statues nor the Christians who took Hazrat Isa alayhi salam as the son of Allah Ta'ala. He used to say to me, don't you want to see Allah Ta'ala? And I can pass the same question to you all. Although we know that Allah Ta'ala is unseeable and unconceivable, if I would ask to any Muslim, any believer, wouldn't you like to see Allah Ta'ala? I don't think nobody is going to say no. So those people with misunderstanding, wishing to see Allah Ta'ala, they see him, he used to say, in statues, and they see him in Hazrat Isa alayhi salam or other visible things, and he would excuse them. I think that is within the spirit of Islam. And the following story, I think, will be little bit explanatory of this difference of opinion and the ability to excuse or not. Someone came to Isa alayhi salam, Hazrat Isa alayhi salam, and he said, "O the Prophet of Allah, may I travel with you?" Because Hazrat Isa alayhi salam traveled a lot. He said, "I believe in you, and I believe in what you teach. I am a Christian," said he. Hazrat Isa said to the man, "Certainly," he said, "you can come with me, except for every trip, one has to have some provisions," he said. Hazrat Isa alayhi salam said, "I have 2 loaves of bread in my bag. O my companions, how many breads do you have?" He said, "Oh, I have only 1." While in truth, he had 3. So they started traveling. They came to a body of water, and Hazrat Isa alayhi salam touched with his staff to the water, and it opened up like it did to Hazrat Musa alayhi salam, and they walked through. And then they walked, and the next day they came across somebody who had leprosy, and Hazrat Isa alayhi salam gently touched with his staff to the man, and his sickness disappeared. And the next day they came to somebody who was blind. Hazrat Isa alayhi salam again touched with his staff to him, and his eyes opened. And the next day they came to somebody who had just died. And Hazrat Isa alayhi salam said, Bi-Iznillah, raised and touched with his staff, and the dead found back his life. And in each of these miracles, when it was happening, Hazrat Isa alayhi salam asked to his companion, how many pieces of bread do you have? The man said, I only have one. And they shared the bread which Hazrat Isa had between them. And finally, one day, Hazrat Isa alayhi salam was tired and it was hot. And there was a tree under which he lied down and put his staff on the ground, and he fell asleep. And in the city yonder, the king of the city had his daughter extremely sick, and he has heard that there was a holy man who was coming, who opened the eyes of the blind and who cured the sick and who raised the dead. And he sent his emissaries to find this man. And the emissaries came, Hazrat Isa sleeping, his companion sitting. And they asked that we heard that there was a holy man who cures the sick and opens the eyes of the blind and raises the dead. The man looked at the staff of Hazrat Isa and he said, that is me. And he took the stick and went to the palace, and the daughter is deadly sick. And he said, well, after all, I am not Hazrat Isa. Maybe instead of touching, maybe I should really hit hard with the stick to the girl, so that she gets cured. And so he hit hard on the head of the girl, and the girl died. And of course, immediately the king puts him in the dungeon, and next day he was going to be executed. Hazrat Isa wakes up from his sleep. He looks for his companion and he looks for his staff. And he goes to the city yonder. And he hears indeed a man did such and such, and he was in the dungeon, and he was about to be executed the next morning. He went to the king, and he said to the king, if I would revive your dead daughter, would you let my companion free from your dungeon? And the king said yes. So he put his blessed hand on the face of the woman, and Bismillah raised, and the woman became alive again. And the crooked companion was freed, and Hazrat Isa alayhi salam asked him, my breads are almost finished. You said you had one bread. May we share it? He said, no, I ate it. And as they were walking, they come to a crossroad. And at the crossroad wall, there were 5 huge boulders, 100 kilos each, of gold. And the man immediately went crazy. It's mine, it is mine. Hazrat Isa said, wait a second, but after all, we have been companions, that I am your partner, that we should share it. We should share it to the number of the bread which we had. I had 3 and you had 1. The man said, oh no, he said, I also had 3. At that, Hazrat Isa alayhi salam said that our ways part, and he continued and left the man with the gold, except the man couldn't lift the gold, couldn't transport the gold, and he was going from one piece to another. 2 other bandits. They said, well, we want our share of this gold too. Now the man is thinking what to do because they have got swords and everything else. And he said, look, my village is not far from here. I will go to my village and get a cart and a donkey, and we will carry those things away. So he goes to his village, and he finds his mother, and he asks his mother to make a pie with a lot of red poison in it. So he comes back with the chariot and the pie, and of course the two bandits are ready to kill him as soon as he comes back. So the bandits kill him, they eat the pie, they die too, and Hazrat Isa, on his way back, he comes and sees the gold boulders and 3 people dead next to them. One day, Hazrat Isa alayhi salam was seen running from someone, really in terrible fear. And someone says, Ya Ruh min Allah, O the Spirit, whose Spirit is from Allah Ta'ala, you who raised the dead and who cure leprosy and open the eyes of the blind, who are you running from? Who are you afraid of? He said, I am running away from the fool. They said, the fool? What is so beautiful about the fool? Because he said, the fool is cursed by Allah Ta'ala. You may raise the dead, you may open the eyes of the born blind, and you may cure leprosy, but you cannot do anything with the fool. He was pure spirit. He was unworldly. He had no friends. He even denied his mother, calling her woman. He had no wives, no children. And when Allah Ta'ala decided to save him from his enemies, in his young age, he took him up to heaven. And his 12 followers denied him, and they left hither and thither in the world. Most of them came to the pagan Rome, and the development of the billion and so Christians started in Rome. It is not me who says it, but Christians say it. There are 2 kinds of Christianity. One is the original Christianity, which they call the Judaic Christianity. The Christianity which is really associated with Judaism, with the religion which Hazrat Musa alayhi salam has brought, and at his time was degenerating, and Hazrat Isa alayhi salam, if you wish, was a rabbi who was ahead of his time. That was the Judaic original Christianity. And then they say there is the pagan Roman Christianity. When Christianity came to Rome, that they have to adopt from the paganism of the Romans many, many things to be able to address the Romans, mostly lower classes, uneducated classes. That is when, for instance, the imagery, the paintings, etc. come into Christianity. So why did I tell you this rather lengthy story of Hazrat Isa alayhi salam's travel with the one who claims to be a Christian together? You figure this one out yourself. And why did I tell you that story of his fear of the fool, which is, I think, a lesson to all of us. And indeed, this intelligence of us is what separates us from the animals, and the absence of that intelligence is a curse of Allah Ta'ala, and may we all have this